Well, good evening, Mr. Clinton.
Hey,
How are
my
you, my
friend.
friend?
How are you doing?
Yes, I'm very well, sir. How are you doing? Are you okay?
I'm good. Yes, I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome, awesome. Am I sounding a bit loud? Because sometimes I feel like am I okay?
Yeah, you seem as though you got some extra power, man.
Shut up, pop. Just go in there. Boom, boom, shakalala. Yeah, I think this mic of mine sometimes it just picks up every
Yeah.
little sound, and I just want to make sure I don't sound too overwhelmed.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I don't have my mic plugged in because I'm downstairs, but
Okay.
is this all right?
Yeah, you sound good. You sound good.
Good,
Yeah. I
good, good,
just
good.
wanted to make sure I'm not too loud. How are
Ah,
you, my friend? How's family? Family good?
all good. Can't
Yeah.
complain. Yes, yes. Little man is growing today. He asked me, "So, Daddy, you're a big man, are you?" I said, "Yeah."
Okay.
He said, "How about me?" I said, "Well, you got another 13 years to go." He said, "Oh, that's a long time."
Okay. Okay. Got another.
5-year-old conversation, huh?
He's very much in a rush. He's very much in a rush.
Oh,
Yes, hey, youngster, how
This
are
is
you
Gino.
doing?
good
How you
evening,
doing, sir?
gents.
You all right?
How are you?
Yeah. Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you. How
Awesome.
was the
Awesome.
day, guys? Good.
Good, good, good.
Yeah. Well, the Jonas household. Yeah, we're doing fine, sir. We're carrying on.
Good.
All good on the side.
That's
And
what we like to hear.
your
You got
clan,
no choice, though.
everybody winning.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Great
Good.
stuff. So, well, I'm excited that we are back on again. It feels like I feel like we were on there yesterday. Oh man, the time just goes so quick, so quick. I don't know about you guys, and I
Very
think
scary.
I think the fact that we even now just a few weeks away from Christmas
Mm.
doesn't even it doesn't help. Also, is it? It's kind of like
We might as well sit down and just write the number. Let it just go like that. Just write 22,
Yes.
23, 24, 20.
yeah, it just took like a crazy. Wow, wow.
Goodness.
But wow, we thank God that we are alive, we are strong, we are healthy.
Yeah.
Yes.
We I know I had a conversation with Clinton earlier, and and it was just kind of like reminding me that there are so many things we just take for granted.
Yeah.
Just the fact that we are actually managed to get out of bed today is, you just think, no, I'm supposed to get out of bed. What's your problem? No, it doesn't really actually work like that. It's we have to be grateful, and
Yeah.
even the fact that we can come on here week in and week out and just having conversations and just hanging out. We shouldn't take it for granted, because
Yeah.
maybe there's somebody else that would like to do what we're doing, but because their life schedule does not allow it, or it's just difficult. But so we are here, and we just continue to connect and to stretch one another. But once again, thank you so much for taking out the time, gents, to come on here. um, we had a brilliant conversation last week, didn't we? Oh my goodness, it brought us back to reality. I don't know if anybody can. Did you manage? I know it was only myself and Chido that was on, but I don't know if you guys managed to have a listen to the fact
I
that
have it.
no,
No,
man, whatever happens in the house, we have to make sure that we build those relationships, man.
hear that.
To make sure that we strengthen those ties with those that are closest to us, because it does matter, because in the household, um, that is where the character is formed, and that's where we are. That's where they know. That's where you are walking around without no mask. No, you are. Can I put it like you are naked, bro? You can't even. They know you for who you are, and I think the more we can kind of like duplicate the kind of like life or behavior that we have within our household, that authentic self,
Mm.
I think that's worth us working on, because it will produce results. It will produce results. We've got Mr. Jordan facilitating the session today.
Okay.
Hopefully, he will be coming on shortly. But if not, I'm sure that we can come up with something productive and something worth debating, whatever you want to call it. I would like us to conversation like that, because every time when we have a conversation, we all agree on a thing, eh? It's kind of like we should have a bit of some heated discussions, who's for this and who's not against, and who's against this, and you come up with a well structured argument. Say, Kendrick, you are wrong. I think that will be a good something good for us to, because it stretches our thinking, isn't it? Because if we kind of like all, I'm not saying now come on here and we're gonna kind of like every week we're gonna fight or whatever. Say no. Because then the good thing is I have the control. If I feel like you are getting too, I just take you out. Just say no. Okay, we'll see you next week. Okay, we'll see you.
Thank you for coming.
Say again.
I said, yeah, thank you for coming. See you.
Yeah, see you next week. Thank you so much for coming.
Just having technical issues, and so we say goodbye.
Yeah, that's it.
While we wait on Mr. Jordan, I think I get my random moments where I ask myself some questions.
Okay.
And it's the same question, but every now and again you ask the same question to check. One of the questions was, do you love yourself? Do you know what love is? Why did I come up with that? Well, I decided to actually just, in the YouVersion Bible app, you can just take a word and type it, and then you'll find all the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
So I typed love, and then I began to see some things. And I was like, "Ooh, this concept that I have of love is not is not in line with what I am thinking."
Yeah.
And it prompts you. You're not putting yourself down. Don't get me wrong. You're not depressed. You're not. For me, I want to call it realigning yourself with reality, but the Bible's reality. Right? If you're not a Christian, realign yourself with positive reality, which again still comes from the Bible, in my view. And the Bible then brings out some stuff. Is interesting that when you begin to check anything that you say love, you tell the wife you love her, you tell the kids you love them. Well, let me ask you something. Here's the deal with this love business. If somebody really get you upset, and this is the ones that 1 Corinthians 13, 4 and 5. Love suffers long and is kind. Hold on. The first thing, why I want to suffer, right? And is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. So which means it's not all about you. It's not puffed up. So if you don't get the mic, you're pissed off. If your opinion or your voice is not heard when you hope for it to be heard, see what I mean? So I want to leave that there and just say, whether it's love, whether it's relationships, whatever, I think it's always good now and again just to check in and let the word slice and dice, And I'll leave it there. Good day, Mr. Jordan. I will decline and let you incline.
Mr. Jordan, how are you doing?
Everyone.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Good to
Busy
see
week, a
you.
bit rough trying to recover from a cold, but
Oh
yeah,
dear.
we'll get there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good to
Yeah.
see you,
At
sir.
least it's a cold. It's not the COVID that's resurging. It's just my wife went to work. Has been going to work for the past 2 days, and almost everybody in that team has tested positive
Wow.
just for that meeting. And then at our church, someone just came back from holiday, and everybody else in that works there is
Wow.
COVID now. It's just unbelievable. So
Yeah,
let's just be cautious. That's all I'm trying to. That's what I'm trying to. Let's not think. He's still knocking people out of the road now.
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Because everybody's guards are down now. People are not really bothered. It's like, oh, okay, we just carry on like usual. Um, anyway, Mr. Jordan, it's all over to you, sir. We are really looking forward to hear what you want to bring to the table this evening, because we are always blessed when you facilitate the sessions.
Yes.
So yeah, we're ready to. We are all ears, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me this evening. Yeah, I think it's yeah, a busy time of year, isn't it? Seasons changing.
Yeah.
We just talk about picking up a flu or catching something when the weather changes. And how vulnerable we are sometimes. We think things are going in a certain direction, and then something happens along the way, throws you off track, or you get something that's unexpected,
Mm.
and the impact that can have as a time period, and most of the time you don't know how long that is. But what do we normally do? We do our best, isn't it?
That's it.
And you eventually get through it, no matter what it is. If it's very urgent, you deal with it as quick as you can. But if it's not so urgent, you push it to the back and you take on something else that takes priority. But at the end of the day, you get positive things happening and negative things. So you end up with having to deal with things that are negative to get through it,
Hmm.
to see the light and see something positive. And I think it all boils down to resilience and being resilient. Um, but my question really today is this evening is about resilience and getting through what needs to happen for you to get through to a better place, um, despite the fact that you don't know when that time is going to happen when you get through into a better space. But when things get tough, yeah, you have to push through as best you can until you find a solution. So there's almost no way giving up. Um, so I guess my strategy was always to offset negative things with positives. So if I had an exam or anything I had to do and I wasn't particularly confident in the exam, I would still do my best and hope for the best.
Mm.
And if something did happen, then you have to find a way to push through and to do your best. And sometimes your best, um, others might say, is not good enough, but it's a learning opportunity. So even in that space, your learning opportunity is good enough because you are going to build up resilience over time. So the next time you get the same challenge, the next time you get the same um things you have to encounter that you go through, it's through resilience that you actually build up the capacity to get the experience to tackle it more effectively or tackle it from a different perspective. And the funny thing is, I looked at in my own life and around my family, and when there was sickness and illness, or in whichever way, I would always then only try and find out more about it, and not beforehand, because I mean, if you study medicine, you can probably go to town with spending 10 years and not getting to the answers of everything, but you rely on what advice you get. Ultimately, you do your own research. You even ask a doctor what they would do. And I
Yeah.
find it funny when you ask a doctor or a GP
Mm-hmm.
what they think, because they often ask you when you come in, what do you think, Mr. Jadan, is the problem?
It's true.
And I'm like, you're the expert, you
Yeah.
know. And yes, they are good, but they're still looking for a head start
Mhm.
from you.
Yeah.
And one day I had a GP pull out, and my cousin's a doctor, so I know that they've got this quite intensive book, you know, where if you give them your basic symptoms, it's like a index and a lookup table. They can actually get there very quickly, roughly. They might get it wrong now and then, but the majority of the time, uh, we learn that history repeats itself. So even in medicine, in diagnosis, yeah, what you might be going through, someone else might have had before. And the records and the research of that is they can quickly home into what your symptoms are. Could be one of these, one, two, or three. And then for some conditions, you find no, it doesn't match. So they have to do more investigation. And that can go much longer than you ever thought it would to find the diagnosis and the solution. But in those times, in all these things, you have to have resilience, and resilience boils down to the ability not to give up, and to carry on, even in the absence of knowing what the solution is. So my question tonight is, if you can give an example of where that happened, anything happened to you, or you experienced something, and you have to have resilience to get through. Just to give us a quick insight of how that played out, and how keeping on and pushing through meant you get a breakthrough at the end. But if you gave up, say at the first hurdle, or instantly, or just not bother, you don't find the solution at the end. Um, so yeah, it's open to the floor. Anyone?
Since I have not been here for a couple of sessions, I'll go first.
No
No,
worries.
the penalty coming, Mr. Richie. So
I know, that's why I jump on it early. um, it's if you're dealing with in business or in your health, you're dealing with unknowns, and literally in it's not necessarily uncharted water, but um, waters where you feel like nobody has navigated before. Mind you, I said you feel, yeah. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's a journey where you have to take it, and the options are very few. And an answer is going to come, direction is going to come, solution is going to come. But while those are coming, you've got to stay the course. And what makes it even more challenging is when you are driving a ship that you've got people on board, family, staff, and they're saying, "So where are we going?" You're saying, "You know what? We gotta just keep going and keep focusing forward." And they're looking at you. I don't know where you're going, but you gotta go. And it's interesting in that it becomes more than resilience. It becomes more, I would call it an appreciation of real life, not life like people know it, which is you get up, you make $1, and you get stuff. The real life is, and it's not about suffering, it's not about endurance, it's that because you cannot carry that sort of thing as a motivation to people, to the people on your ship. They're going to jump ship. They have that choice. But you've got to carry it in such a way that they will stay the course with you. Because you come to realize how important is the fact that you need them more than they need you. So from my point, I would say it's interesting how certain journeys come along at certain times to bring to the forefront what is important for the next season ahead. That's the best way I can put it. Because I've seen certain patterns every time you're about to enter various seasons of your life. So I may have strayed a little bit from what you asked, but it's one of those moments, and the only answer is in a moment. There is no lengthy answers given to you for a week, a month, or a long period. You only get answers momentarily to cover that particular moment. So it's like having manna, like the Bible spoke about. And that's what you got to work with. So somebody asks you, you got bread for 2025? Dude, I got bread that is going to last me up to midnight tonight.
Mhm.
And when I get up in the morning, shall I arise, which I expect to do so.
Mm.
I expect to see bread.
Yeah.
What bread that's going to be, meaning what provision that's going to be, where it's going to come from, what's good. I can't tell you, I don't know. Can I tell that to my people on the ship? No. I've got to get up with that same expectation that they're looking at me for that bread.
Mm.
So I am sharing that. Maybe it's a little bit too top level, but I'm sharing it just to say to us, there's a season coming. That's just preparation for another season, which will require more of you. And humility and the various things you're experiencing now is like training your muscles, where you don't know whether you're going to have energy, where you don't know whether you're going to be able to focus or even think or speak on anything long. But you know what? You go with the expectation that you will deliver in this moment. You go with the expectation that you will increase and not decrease. Although you might be feeling of decreasing in that moment. Okay. So I hope that made sense to somebody.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Clinton. It's insightful. Anybody else?
You can go for the Cheeto.
All right. Yeah. So very, very good question. What comes to mind straight away is the project fixing our house that we've just gone through. Went from it went from 6 months to 1 year and a half or something like that, and cost so much more than we budgeted in the first place. And the frustration that goes with you start. It's I use the analogy of when you hit the traffic, you go through three phases of, oh, I'm going to miss my appointment. Oh, what is going on here? I'm going to break this thing down. And then you go to the next level where you're saying, hopefully this thing clears quickly. So I really need to get to this place. I really hope that this thing will just move. And then the third phase where everything has stopped. You're there. You're in your car. You're not going anywhere. You don't even need anybody to tell you to calm down, because whether you calm down, jump out of your car, climb on top of your car, run naked on that road, you're stuck. That's it. That's where you are. That's where you're going to be. Um, and that was the sort of journey. You know, you get to the end, oh, they'll finish here so that we can at least move back. At some stage, we had to move out, and then you think. But you know, you get to that stage where you have that calmness of mind, not because the problem is solved, but because you know that you are where you are. What shall we do now? You know, even if nobody's consoling you or strengthening you, then you see that the right words will start coming. And that's why it's very crucial that we make sure that we have these words, you know, stored somewhere, and we can not just from the reading, from the written word or from the books that we read, but stored inside us, because we have that voice that tries to make us do something, voice that destroys every atom of patience, every atom of perseverance, every atom of endurance that's inside us. Even at some stage, you start hearing that voice blaming you for the fact that things are late, or the fact that you have not succeeded in what you're doing. And it's very, very frustrating. But when you have a huge store of those words that can go back to them and tell them and tell them some very, very nicely written psalms that are very nasty to those words, like, even though I walk through the shadow of death, I know that you are with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Nothing can separate us from the love of God through Christ Jesus. If God be for us, who can, it doesn't even matter if you're not a Christian. If you're not a Christian, you should have words that's going to keep you going. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. It's not the end. Things look really, really tough. They look really, really rough before it gets better. How about that? If you have those words that you store, that can encourage you, that can encourage me to say, hang in there, hang in there, help is coming. At some stage, we're going to see light somewhere. But even if light doesn't come, I know that light is still going to come at some stage. And that way we continue to move. But it's a very, very important skill to have, because life is quite frustrating. There's a lot of things that will not go according to plan. Some of them will be things that have happened because of our carelessness. Some of them will be things that have happened because God didn't want the other option to happen. But our ability to just know that whatever happens, we are standing where we should stand, and we're handing over things to God. It's not that, the Bible never said that things are never going to be rough, but he said he's going to be with us through whatever it is that's going on. And that's what I wanted to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Chidozie. Kendrick, any thoughts on resilience or things you've experienced?
Man, I think that's one of the most powerful what can I call it, attributes that you and I can develop is the ability to stand regardless of whatever it's being thrown at you, but it's being thrown at me. We just stand, because I think life has an habit to to test us, and ask you, Kendrick, do you really want this? Let's see how long can you stand, how long can you go after this, man. It's because sometimes your knees will buckle, you will feel weak, and you will realize, man, my back is against the wall here. I don't even know what to do. But all we can sometimes do, we just stand because the only time that we really lose is when we give up. And I guess giving up, there's different ways that you can look at giving up and not having that resilience. I mean, I think one of the most, let's use the family life. Um, maybe the relationship with the wife or a relationship with the kids. Sometimes you can having the resilience to stand. And it doesn't even mean that, okay, I'm giving up. I don't have the resilience to stay on this. Because leaving doesn't even mean you're leaving the house. You just clock out. Y'all do what y'all want to do. I'm not here. You see, it's like you zoned out, you know. You don't because the pressure and the weight that you are carrying, it has just become so heavy. You're like, oh man, I can't do this. And the thing is, we can't do it by ourselves. And I think once we and most of the time when it feels like it's at its heaviest, that's when we are about to get a breakthrough. But we just feel like, no man, this is it, man. This is it. um, we just need to we need to continue to develop that. And I think that's one of the hardest things, because it's just a human tendency to go in the direction where there's least resistance. um, and I think when we choose to go down that direction, we 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 fail to develop that muscle of faith, that the resilience itself, the ability to stand regardless. Man, even if you go out there in the world and you put on that face that looks like everything is good and groovy, and then go into your bedroom and you cry yourself to sleep, and then tomorrow you back out again and just do what you gotta do. I know it sounds like, oh really, is that? Well, I don't know what kind of weight you carry. But sometimes, it just requires us to just stand, and not just not give up. So this is brilliant, sir. This is brilliant.
Yeah, thanks, Kendrick. And I think it's true. Yeah, and in all those examples, it demonstrates that you shouldn't give up, because life is continuous.
Mm,
And I think what I've always thought of is, if you can have the most intense day, most difficult day,
mm,
you if it's up to you, you do get a chance to rest the evening, go to bed, go sleep, isn't it, and energize.
mm,
Um, and for instance, the cold I had, I notice every day, night after night, it gets better, and you actually feel at your best when you get up in the morning and you had that rest.
yeah.
So you've been energized, but let's say the day carries on, you can go through highs and lows of feeling full of energy the 1 hour, the next hour energy levels drop and you just want to close your eyes and go sleep. But life is like that. It's never smooth. It's never just and yes, I think sometimes when we're younger, we have more energy and more resilience physically.
Yeah.
And if you look at elderly people, they sometimes have to rest and wait, energize, and then continue. But eventually, they can still do what young people do. Nothing stops them if they want to continue. But your mental state, everything relies on all your senses coming together, everything that works together for your good. And I think if you're young, you probably carry on with that being part of you, how you think about resilience and how you deal with things. Let's say getting through school, getting through exams, getting through your first job interview.
Mm,
And I looked at just in the dictionary what resilience means. And one example says it's the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. So what does that say, recover quickly? We all want to recover quickly. But in the context of your life, you actually do recover quickly if you have an obstacle. If you live to 50, 60, 70, in comparison to how many years you live, then recovery is actually quick. But going through it, it seems like it could be forever.
yeah.
And then a second explanation says it's the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape like elasticity. And that means if you had, say, like a nylon uh, sort of resistance band, it's a certain length, and if you pull it apart, it's going to stretch. You release it, it's going back to its original state.
Mm.
And the ability to spring back means if you were in a good frame of mind, at some point you can actually get back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, which sets you on another path, but now you have more experience of what could go wrong. And that's how resilience works. I mean, it builds up your capacity to be more resilient,
Mm.
hopefully. But there's not just one answer for it. There's not just one way to explain that. And I think there's an example. I had a few um, sort of areas I thought which was quite interesting when I looked into it in terms of how to build your resilience. Yeah, one is centered around emotional intelligence.
Mm.
Uh, two is energy, how you can build your resilience. Your relationships, three. Your perspective, four. And your priorities, five. So I think that for me was things that I thought was important when I went through this the first time, and I thought, yes, your emotional intelligence relies on your experience basically, and how you dealt with things in the past. So let's say you dealt with things wrongly and it had consequences, and you learn from that. Emotionally, you would know how to deal with things better.
Mm.
Um, let's say it comes down to injury of someone, a loved one, or someone you know who's close to you. Then you have to deal, or death in the family or something like that. Emotionally, you have to deal with those things, and that's probably the most difficult one and extreme. But also understanding how to comfort others and be empathetic,
Mm.
and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Your behavior around those challenging times comes down to how you deal with things emotionally. And I don't think that's easily taught. That's something you have to figure out and exercise. And I guess you can do some research on it, some homework, but ultimately, there's no telling how to know how someone is going to react. Um, but I think emotionally, it's good to be resilient as well and see things in perspective. And then if we think of energy, um, number two, if you resilient, yeah, you have to get up every morning. I remember going to school, I was told, even if you don't feel like going to school, you're still going to get up and get done. Work is a bit different because you get paid. Sometimes you just think of, oh, I'm getting paid for this, so I can't. But at school, when you don't see what you're studying for is going towards exactly where you know the future is, there's days you don't want to get up for school. You don't want to, day after day go to school. But in some countries like the UK, where parents get fined if they don't send kids to school, yeah, maybe that's an incentive. But ultimately, I know parts of the world, if you don't want to go to school and the parents don't care, uh, there's no chance. So there must be motivation, but energy to get up, energy to drive forward, to go forward every day. And I think energy can come in different forms. I remember the days when I was cycling to to work. It was about an 8 or 10 year period where the kids were young, and I would cycle with them on the bike, and even I got a chance to cycle with both of them on the same bike, taking both to different school, well, to the same school. But I had lots of energy,
Wow.
and then it's only 5 minutes from the house, so it's not too bad. And then another 10-minute cycle to the office. But I felt if I was off for 2 weeks and I got on that bike again, then I didn't have the energy I had. I would be so tired and so drained. And I thought, let me experiment a bit. So sometimes I would cycle only standing, right, and not try not to sit on the seat. And I built up a resilience, that made me fit. And I noticed when I take the stairs at work, I can run to the third floor up and I'm not out of breath. And I worked in one office for a long time, so I took the stairs quite a lot. And I knew how it was where I get out of breath doing the same number of steps, putting the same energy in. But the energy we need, that doesn't come all of a sudden. It comes at a cost for you preparing, and it goes with health and anything else as well. But you build up resilience, isn't it? So much so that I could decide to jump on my bike instantly and cycle home for 15 minutes. And my wife was home that time, and I could spend half an hour at home and then cycle back to work and continue the rest of the day. But if I didn't build up the energy and the resilience, I don't think, because other people would ask me, you're really cycling home and then you cycle back to work? And they said, no, it's a bit too much. I don't think I can do that. But because I did that every day, it became normal. If you ask me now to do that distance, and it took me 15 minutes, yeah, it'd probably take longer and I'll be very unfit. And so I think to get to that energy level, I just had to work hard, and then it became normal and I had the capacity. So energy can be one thing that gives you the ability just to start something.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
And once you made a start, everything then falls in place because you did make the start. If you thinking twice, let's say you got like a really stormy, windy day, and this happened to me during winters as well when I used to cycle. I later on didn't look at the weather. I just bought the right clothes and I would jump on the bike and just start cycling. And then I find, well, 15 minutes I'm at work again, and it didn't bother me whatever the weather was. I knew how I was going to get there. I had the energy, and I just made a start. If I think of the third topic, which was relationships, then how we build our resilience is through bouncing off other people we can trust, have a relationship, and build that trust. And you have to find those people, not looking for them specifically, but creating the opportunities where those people will come into your life. And then you have to make the choice, with relationships. Some will be good, some will be bad, some you have to drop, others you have to nurture and encourage. But I think you have to be choosy, because when it comes to relationships, you want something you can build on and build on lasting relationships as much as you can. If you don't do that, you might have lots of acquaintances and no real relationship that can be going to a level where there's a level of trust and a bit more that you can share and the next person as well. Because there will be times when that relationship requires you to be strong or the next person to be strong to encourage you. So I think you can definitely through relationships build that resilience.
Yeah.
Fourth is perspective. is your glass half full or glass empty? We've all heard that one. And I often think, like, if we got two cars, one's a heavier car on diesel, the other one's lighter. So when my car, which is lighter on fuel, when the light comes up, I know how many kilometers or miles I can still drive. And my wife's not comfortable when that light comes on. She wants me to fill up. And I say, no, we can still go twice around the block and do the food shopping, and we can go to church. But I think the perspective is different for different people. And we can build our resilience in terms of how we perceive things.
Yeah.
And our priority is number 5. Sometimes we have to prioritize some things above others to get through that part which is difficult in life, or to have the resilience to get through that. And when you prioritize things, you might not satisfy everybody.
Yeah.
And that's also important, not to just do everything that comes to mind, but you prioritize what's important, what's effective, and you can justify that yourself. Any thoughts on that? Emotional intelligence, energy, relationships, perspective, and priorities.
It's interesting. I think by default you you practice, or you make use of all those tools, because I usually hear people on social media appear in books, all sorts. So, top 10, 5, 20, 100 successful people say this, do that. But you do enter a phase in your life many times where the only way is, they say, upward or forward, or you go, just go. Yeah. And I think by default, you then begin to make use of all these tools without even realizing it. And you're right. Various people, full or empty, will definitely mean different things to different people in different times or different seasons. What would be priority last season is not going to be priority this season. During my current season, I've discovered something. There's no such thing as hard times. There's no such thing as tough times. What there is preparation for the season ahead. It could be the next season. It could be how many other seasons. It could be preparation for your 90s, your 70s. And the reason why I say that is there's always going to be a price for something that you want to reach for. Yeah. And part of the price and reward of that thing is going to be you paving the way for somebody else and sharing that experience with somebody else. Somebody else need that. And then you will be given the opportunity. It always happens. Either at the start, during, or at the end of a particular season of your life, you will experience it. And so I've begun to embrace moments when it seems strange, not ghostly strange. And that's purely because you're flexing that muscle and working that muscle. We're talking about the various areas. At times, you need to learn and sharpen your skill of prioritizing because your future needs that. Yeah. Maybe if you look back in your past seasons, you'll find that you weren't good at prioritizing. You weren't good at being resilient, but you need that particular tool and skill going forward. So you have to go through that training again. You know what I mean? And if you just embrace it rather than fight it, you find that you get to that season actually ready. All of a sudden, it's very weird. All of a sudden, you feel like if the pressure have been, uh, the lid have come off of you. I don't know if you've, if any of us in here have been through times when you were very young, you just started working and you couldn't wait for the next paycheck, or you couldn't wait for, you know, the job or whatever it was that you had to get. And all of a sudden, I mean, the payment lands in your account, or actually, you haven't got the payment yet. Forget about that. They just give you the thing that says, this is how much you got paid. Right? And I remember the second time I got paid in my life, I kept checking. Oh, really? Okay. When did you say it's going to hit the bank again? All of a sudden, I've got different perspective, different view of different angle of the view of how I'm, because now the things that you couldn't deal with just a moment ago. We're talking moment, milliseconds ago. Now you got this paper, you haven't got the money yet. You just got the payslip. All of a sudden you envision potato. The shopping list has become closer to you, right? What I'm trying to say here is that of those tools that you've shared, resilience, prioritizing, the emotional part, all of those. From time to time, you'll find that you're sharpening aspects. So you're sharpening each one of them, or you then zero in and you have to sharpen aspects of a particular one. And all of a sudden, once you have embraced that, it's very interesting. But just ahead of you, you have to now use that tool. It's needed. So, for example, you're going through really tough times and you keep saying a particular word. These people are trying my patience.
Mm.
My goodness. Well, guess what? You probably prayed, God, give me patience. He don't give you patience. He give you opportunity to exercise it. But then, all of a sudden, in your next season that comes, you find you're in a position where exercising patience and applying it where needed is like, you don't, you on automation, man. You know, you are air fryer going from 180 to 220 to 250 just like this, based on all sort of levers. But those are the skills that were sharpened during the time you call tough, during the time you call too much pressure.
Mm.
See what I mean? So that is my take on my view.
Thanks, Clinton. Uh, anyone want to say anything
Wow,
for closing?
Mr. Richie, Mr. Richie, that's deep, sir. Thank you so much for sharing that, bro. Uh, let me just quickly touch on one of them here that I am kind of like quite I'm quite big on is perspective. Oh man, I've come to realize that sometimes life doesn't seem is what you and I look at, the way we look at things, whether it's something good or whether it's something bad, whether it's an experience that you've gone through. All it is just a perspective, and sometimes we feel like the world is coming to an end. But sometimes if I just change my perspective on a specific thing, I can see the light. And then I realize it's actually not as bad. Um, so and I think when we get to a place where we don't look at things only this way, but try it and look at the challenges that we are going through. Try and get a different angle on it. um, because I think what that does, it gives us an opportunity to grow, because I think that's the main objective. Because when we go through hard times, or when we go through things that we feel that is too big for us, um, and you don't want to exercise that resilience, um, by simply just changing the way I look at it, it either will increase the weight or it will decrease the weight, depending how I'm seeing things. So yeah, so that's all I wanted to say on that perspective. Perspective is huge. It's huge.
Anyway, let me just add
Absolutely.
quickly as we close. I know I have a few seconds. Um, great perspectives from both of you. Okay, perspectives from both of you. I think we're dealing with a situation where we again have to come back to that word intentional about life and what happens and so on. Everything that is in this list, whether it be emotional intelligence, whether it be perspective, whether it be energy, whether it be prioritization, whatever it is in the list, is these are things, these are like muscles that we need to continue to build, whether we are in that situation or not. And that's what Mr. Ritchie was alluding to earlier. It's not about waiting until we get there, but it's about making sure that we're building up on these skills, whether the situation is here or not. As we continue to build up the skills, when something starts going wrong, perspective, you cannot form a perspective in the midst of a crisis. You have got you have to have a pre-formulated perspective before then. Prioritization, that's what makes you a person. Whether you're a Christian or not, you've got to have principles. What's number one for you? What matters most? Put in those things. Energy. If you don't go to the gym, for example, there are certain things that would happen now, like you were talking about biking, cycling from here to there, that will happen now that you will have to struggle with. Emotional intelligence, it's a lot. There's a lot in there. And then perspective, how we see things, it's a matter of habit, that we formulate based on our understanding, and understanding comes from learning. You have to learn or expose yourself to things, then you understand. That way your perspective is going to continue to stay where it's supposed to stay, so that when things happen, then you can have the expected reaction to it. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you. And thank you for this wonderful session.
Thanks, thanks everyone. I know we're on the top of the hour, but I think we can also in our own time explore a bit more about emotional intelligence, energy, all things to build our resilience perspective,
Mhm.
relationships, and our priorities. There was something interesting because I always wanted to find out what does the Bible say about resilience, and it does contain many examples to press on and overcome hardship and temptation, and persevere in the face of trials. And it also gives numerous, I guess, examples of people who suffered greatly but continued to follow God's plan for their lives. And I think for me, that's the important one for each person. If you are Christian or not, do you recognize God's plan for your life?
Mm.
And if you do, yeah, you probably would be more at ease. But there was a quote just in closing that, I thought was really interesting from Bern Williams, who says, "Man never made any material as resilient as the human spirit."
Mm.
Um, and I know in construction we try and develop new materials to be used, and they still exploring scientists to create better materials than that. But that material could never be made, you know, or man could never make a material as resilient as the human spirit. So there's something about us humans that enables us to do things that makes, um, you know, even if you watch, I guess, Guinness World of Records or anything like that, you sometimes surprised as to see what humans can achieve. But in terms of resilience, that our human spirit is fundamental to that. But thanks for tonight's session. That was really interesting, good feedback, good discussions, everyone. And thanks for giving us that those nuggets, that in-depth information and experience that you shared today. Yeah, we're looking forward to guess next week, hopefully, same time, same place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and yeah, have a good evening, everyone.
Okay.
All right, awesome stuff. Thank you so much, sir. Great job. Really enjoyed that. Have
Yeah.
a great week, gentlemen. See you all soon.
Thanks. Cheers, everyone.
See you
God
soon.
See you.
Okay,
See you.
bye-bye.
Bye.
So Dan,
Bye bye.
thank you. Good night. Bye.